Hey guys, welcome to Barbecue with Buck. Today we're going to do a Boston butt. I've got two of these and they were frozen, so they've been thawing overnight. I got it facing you so you can see. I like to get the bone in. I feel like the flavor's better and I just like the way it turns out. A couple of things we're going to do to this before we put it on the grill. I am going to inject it. I've got, if you look at your cup, you come up to the ridge, half apple juice and half white grape juice, and then I add a quarter cup of Worcestershire sauce. Another option you can do is white grape and peach that turns out really good. But this is what I do with competition. This is where I like to go with it. And it blends well with the flavor profile we're going to use on this. So be liberal with your injections. Don't worry about it running out. As you can see, I've got it on a cookie sheet above the pan. I'm going to leave it there until I get internal of about 100 degrees. That way I build up a good crust all the way around the pork. And then we'll wrap it with foil and we'll stick it back in its own juices. So don't worry if a little bit of it runs out. Just make sure we get it in there and get everything nice and juicy. We want to go on the underside of that bone as well, make sure we get everything. And remember to let it sit for a second before you pull it back out. That'll prevent the squirting. Alright. Now that injection I made was for two of these Boston butts. So if you're only doing one, you could do half of that and get by just fine. The first thing we're going to do is use a all-purpose seasoning. It's just salt, pepper, garlic, just like we did with the brisket. We want to get a good coat of that on there. This is the base for everything we're going to do. And don't worry about that seasoning getting down to the bottom of the pan. Be, liberal with it. Put quite a bit on there. That fat's going to render down and it's going to create a flavored juice that matches the pork for when we sit it down in there to cook later on. So, alright, we got that nice and covered. Now we're going to switch. This one's going to be 3-tiered. We're going to switch over to the Touch of Cherry. It's made by Three Little Pigs out of Kansas City. You can try to make your own cherry flavored rub, but it's hard, and two, these guys nailed it. So I just go ahead and use theirs. It makes it easier. Gives it a really nice red and mahogany color. If you see what I'm doing, I just angle my hand and I can cup it and pat it in as I go, so I don't have to turn the whole butt as much. It makes it a little bit easier. Okay, then we'll flip it up on the side, and we'll get that fat cap. A lot of that's going to render off, so we're not as worried about coating it perfectly. Okay. And then what we're going to do on the top, which we won't do on the bottom, is, this is called Loot and Booty Barbecue. I've got the Jolly Rogers. It's a black jalapeno garlic. This is going to make your crust really dark, so don't be afraid that it's burning as long as you're doing it correctly. As you can probably see, it's dark. It's not real spicy. It is a little chunky, so make sure you pat it in good. And I just do a light dusting. It's just to give it a little bit of a kick to go with that sweet and salty. So I kind of want all three of those flavors coming out of my pork. I'm going to put this on the grill. I've got it started at 260. I like to let it ride between 260 and 270 until I get my crust really nice and settled. Then I can wrap it, and then I can lower the temperature down and let it cook slow. You can cook it however you would like, but I'm going to show you throughout the process what it's going to look like. And don't forget, we want to check on this every hour and give it a good spray with cold water to help set that crust. Alright, we've got them set up in here, and as you can see, I let that rub sweat get set up on there good. And you can see the liquid in the bottom. That is a mixture of my leftover marinade mixed in with Yuengling beer. So you can pick a beer, a juice, water, whatever you want, but you want to keep the bottom of that pan dry until we start getting, or wet until we get some fat in there That way those spices in the bottom don't burn and mess up the flavor when we put the meat into it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my firebox, as you can see here. Good and hot. I've got a little bit of apple I'm gonna stick in there. And I'm gonna stick a small piece of oak in there as well. And we're gonna let that ride and let it smoke up good. And I'll be back to show you how we spray in about an hour. So every hour we want to come and check on our barbecue. Slide it up. We want to spray it with cold water, keep it moisturized. Like that bottom one. You can see how the black jalapeno rub is starting to get darker. We want to keep an eye on that. We don't want to get it too dark. And when we do it next time, we'll temp it. Once we get over 100 degrees, we'll go ahead and wrap it. Go ahead, Seth. Once your meat hits 100 degrees internal, we want to go ahead and wrap it in foil, and then we'll put it back in. Set it up there. One trick to not burn yourself is to put cotton gloves on under your rubber. Now if you're having an issue with it and you're starting to dry out, you can use butter on top of this once you put it back in. Allow it, but I don't think we're going to need it. Stick it in there, make it tight. And we got the other one. You can see it starting to separate, starting to render that fat. In good shape about halfway through, even though it's raining and the wind's blowing. Remove our pans. Maybe sticking them down in there, those juices to cook. And that's it. Alright guys, we finished up and we let our meat rest for about 45 minutes. I like to give it an hour if I got time, but I'm running a little bit late, so 45 minutes is what it's going to be. We cooked it over oak and apple, as y'all saw earlier. And what I like to do is take it out of the pan that I cooked it in, move it into a fresh pan where I can pull it. And as I was showing you earlier, I wear cotton gloves underneath my rubber gloves, and that keeps me from getting burned up so bad. This is what we're working with. Kind of falling apart here. And right there is the sign you're looking for. Okay? The bone pulls out, very little resistance. Throw it to the side. We've got a little bit of a crust all the way around this thing that we can enjoy. And I will pull that and we'll serve it. Other options you may have as well that I like to do is, if I have a lot more than I need, you can freeze this. It won't get too smoky on you. And when you're ready to cook it, put it in a pan, thaw it in the oven or on the grill with some butter. And it's great for Brunswick stew, great for a barbecue sandwich, or whatever else you use barbecue for down the road. I want to thank you guys for stopping by and all the likes, shares, and subscriptions. I hope you'll have a great evening. Take care.